Let's move on with the first panel of this first edition of this international conference on sports foundations. Vamos agora introduzir o primeiro painel dedicado
First panel on how foundations can and should be socially responsible and also financially sustainable.
In this first panel, we're going to talk about how can socially responsible foundations be financially sustainable. In this panel, Matt Parish, CEO of Liverpool Football Club, also José Soares, Chief Association Executive at Integrated Dreams, and Alex White, Acting CEO at Premier League Charity Funds, discuss issues such as brand positioning, attracting partners, and the funding model for foundations, moderated by Inês Maia Seco, Executive Coordinator at Sporting CP Foundations. Enjoy, and welcome all.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the Liga Portugal for this invitation. I would start with the introductions, but they were already made, so I'll just kick off with our panel. It's the first panel from the International Conference of Sports Foundations, and thank you all for being here with us today. We all know that socially responsible foundations, they aim to make a positive impact on society, while also struggling financial sustainability. Naturally, achieving this financial sustainability requires a balance between the foundation's social goals and mission and its financial health. I would start with you, Alex. Being one of the biggest sports charities in the world, what are key points for a financial sustainable foundation or organization? And what are the things you or the Premier League Charitable Fund look for in a responsible financial management when choosing, for example, a club community organization to fund?
Thank you very much for the welcome, and it's great to be here with you all today. So my role at the Premier League Charitable Fund is acting CEO. The Premier League Charitable Fund is responsible for administering the funding awarded to us by the Premier League for good causes work. We work with football club community organisations across the Premier League, but also the English Football League and the National League as well. We're in a very fortunate position where the Premier League is committed to good causes work and invests a significant amount of funding from its broadcast rights deals into the Premier League Charitable Fund to enable us to deliver our work. Our focus is to support participants to achieve their potential and then to give back to their local communities, all through the power of football. For us, good governance is the main objective of a charity that's administering funding on behalf of the Premier League, so we have to have a very good structure in place. We have our own independent board of trustees that oversee the charity and make sure that myself and my team do an effective job in managing the funds. Our focus is about delivering outcomes and impact for individual participants and the community. So if we can get our governance structures right and have a good structure for administering funding that leads to the delivery of outcomes and impact, we're confident that the finances will look after themselves. There are many component parts to financial sustainability. It's a huge topic. But I think a takeaway for everyone today, I think, has to be good data and measurable outcomes. And if you can't demonstrate the impact of your work, it makes it incredibly hard to go and secure further investment, whether that's the club securing investment from the Premier League Charitable Fund or for the clubs or the Premier League Charitable Fund securing funding from our partner organisations as well. So good governance, a good workforce, but measurable outcomes is, for me, some of the key points.
And is it easy to see those outcomes easily, or do you have to dig it?
It's not always easy to get good data, reliable data that's validated, that really proves the impact of your work. And we're on a journey to do that much better. Matt will tell you all about the pressure we put on our clubs to give us good data. It's not always easy to collect that data when you're working with vulnerable children and families. When you're working in schools, they may not want to share data with you. So we have to put good systems in place to collect data and then to analyze it and make sense of the data so that we can report back our impact. But I think that one of the significant ways of demonstrating impact is case studies and telling a story. So if you have a young person that has been on a positive journey, if you can tell the story of that young person and then demonstrate where we support 100 children in that same way, that helps you scale up the impact.
Okay. Talking about impact, for Sparks Foundation to reach their mission and purpose, it is important not only to reach a sustainable financial management, of course, but most of all to invest in the community and create a social impact, improving people's lives through sports, and which is the main purpose. Matt, over the last years, and Alex was talking about the impact, Liverpool Foundation has been developing an impact measurement framework which allows measuring your work and the social value. What is the importance of monitoring the impact of Liverpool Foundations and work in terms of public awareness and donor engagements, for example?
Yeah, I think it's... hello, everyone. Sorry, just at the start. Yeah, I think it's super important. We've focused a lot on that in the last, as you say, 3 years. When I first came to the foundation at Liverpool, our data capture was okay, but we would just collect numbers. So we would talk about, we've worked with, X thousand young people in it, but that only tells part of the story. So I think we wanted to work backwards from the fact that if the Premier League, who are one of our biggest funders, we're very fortunate to be able to access funding via the Premier League charitable fund, we need to be able to prove that we've spent that money, to your point, in the right way and we're supporting the right parts of the community. So we focus our work in supporting young people and families that are most in need within the communities of the Liverpool City region and beyond. The importance of the impact work was to check that we are doing the right thing. I think we can all, I can't speak for everyone in the room, but I think we can perhaps all fall into the trap of always doing the same work and assuming that the outcomes are what's needed, whereas we wanted to actually prove that. We wanted to have it done independently. So we use an independent organisation who use the data that we capture. We employ a full-time doctor, an academic doctor, who leads that work. She's very robust, into Alex's points about governance, in terms of the numbers are correct, so that we can trust then that the data and the outcomes and the impact that we show are true. And then to be able to say to a funder, for every £1 that you give us, that creates £16 worth of social value is massively important. We've actually found, since we've started reporting on that impact data and the impact of our work in specific areas, our contribution from funders has come up. So it's easier for me to tell the story if I can say our social value last year against the UN Sustainable Development Goals was circa £90 million. To be able to tell that story is incredibly powerful. To be able to tell that story in Liverpool and say that we've contributed the social value of a certain amount to this region is massive. And then importantly, underpinning all of that, and Alex alluded to it as well, is to tell the qualitative stories of the people we support. So case studies that back up the data.
Oh, great.
I'm not a data man. I don't find it that interesting, if I'm honest, but I recognise its importance. But the stories of the people's lives that we've supported and the positive impact is almost equally important. So bringing those two things together to tell the story of what we do.
So storytelling would be the thing.
And I think crucially, us being strong enough to be able to, and we've had these conversations with the Premier League and other clubs to say, are we putting our resources where they're most needed? And then being strong enough to actually say, well no, we're not best placed to tackle that issue. That's other organisations are better placed, because there is a danger that you end up spreading yourselves too thin. As football clubs, people want to work with us and they'll come to us with a variety of issues, but we can't we can't have impact on everything. So focus is key. And that impact data helps us with that focus to see that we're spending our money where it has most impact for the community.
And do you think for donors it's a key element, the impact measurement?
Yes. We have a private donor, our biggest private donor, and we were able to do a full report on the back of this data for that donor to be able to say that during the year of this support from this family, the amount of people that they're funding and supported, which allows us to tell the positive story, allows us to demonstrate what their support does, and crucially for the foundation, means that they refund, and even more importantly, that means that we can carry on supporting the people that money supports. Ultimately, for me, and I appreciate finances and charities are probably different in different countries, but charity finance is simple. It works for me. In the UK, the more money you raise, the more people you support. So if we can demonstrate that impact and the impact it's having on people's lives and generate more money, then we support more people.
Great. I would start with you, José, now. When you're thinking about donors and fundraising, like Matt said, how difficult is it to establish fixed income for social areas in the sports and industry, football sports industry? And what are the biggest challenge, and how do you keep donors and partners engaged?
It's a great question, and good morning, everyone. Glad to be here today with all of you. And coming back to your question, Inês, I will not lie, it's a challenge, of course, it's a challenge, and it's something that requires hard work and to which we dedicate a lot of time. And here, I think one thing that is really important for us, and since the beginning we thought that it was something that will be essential whenever we reach out to any other stakeholders, in particular here partners, donors, all kind of organizations that somehow can support our organization, is the importance of giving back. Like anytime we do a project, anytime we do any program, any initiative, we always think, okay, the other side, alone we cannot do it. We need the support of other organizations. We cannot do anything alone. But this cannot be just supporting us because we work with disability, or because we work in this third sector, or because they need to, like organizations need to support us because we provide impact, and because afterwards they will benefit also from our work. They'll become more inclusive. They will definitely become active actors in turning football for all. That is one of our big missions. Here, for example, when we giving one of our programs, for example, one of our main initiatives, the Football for All Leadership Program, that is a training that we designed an international training that we designed to support disabled people to work or start their own projects in football. Okay, we cannot do it alone. We need support from organizations, from all kind of stakeholders from the sports world and also from community in general. But we will give back. Even we have here a lot the concept of community supports community. In this case, for example, the community supports a disabled person to come to our program, to do our training, to benefit from a top-class training. But afterwards, this participant will come back to his or she's local community and will develop a project for their community. So all the community will benefit because afterwards, for example, like the case of, I can give here an example, like even here, I'm here with two English speakers. One of the organizations who in the past already supported some participants was Activity Alliance, that probably Matt and Alex know quite well what I'm talking about. And they supported some people who collaborate with them to come to our program. But afterwards, this participant, he went back to his country and he started a network to engage disabled people working in sport in the UK. Also, for example, once we counted with the support from the European Power Chair Football Association, who supported a participant to come, because again, alone we cannot do anything. But afterwards, this participant, he was from Scotland in this case, and he went back to Scotland and he started doing tasting sessions of power chair football in many regions where it didn't exist before. So we believe a lot that first, we cannot do anything alone. We need the support. But secondly, it's important always to have in mind, like to give an outcome, as Alex was saying, to give back. We need to give back. The same with another program we had, that is the Innovating for Inclusion bootcamp. Here, the organizations support the program to happen, but afterwards the participants, they develop innovative solutions to solve concrete problems that these organizations have regarding inclusion and accessibility of disabled people within their scope of activity. Or even this year, we will do the Football for All Leadership program in America. And again, we cannot do it. If we cannot do it in Europe alone, in America, even less alone we could do it. And here, who is supporting us is the US Soccer. But okay, they are supporting us because we cannot do it alone. But afterwards, we'll provide a generation of disabled leaders in America that will be able to develop projects for all their communities and create a new area in terms of disability. In this case, I will say football, but soccer in the US. So here, what is really important for us, it's a challenge, and here we are totally aware we cannot do anything alone. We need when we say community, we need all the community involved in our projects and programs. But it's always important to have in mind them. And here it's the best way, I think, to engage like partners. And it's okay, they are supporting us, but they will receive something back. They are not support, even because we believe a lot in disability as opportunity and not so much as charity. So we believe that they will benefit by supporting us. They are giving us the opportunity to keep our mission. But we are also opening them to an opportunity of a wonderful world that is 16% of the global population.
Okay, perfect. Having this in mind, what José just told, Alex, Premier League charitable funds, they support more than 100 football club community organizations. How dependent are clubs and foundations, of course, from external funding? And how do you think the clubs, with the power of its brands, should position themselves in the social and environmental sustainability markets?
As you say, we support 100 plus clubs, and they are very different sizes and at different points in their journey of sort of evolution, really. So Liverpool have been doing this work for a number of years, but we've a lot of clubs who are just starting out on their journey. So for some of them, they're more dependent on funding through ourselves or through the English Football League Trust as well, that underpins the core infrastructure of those organisations. That helps them exist and gives them the opportunity to then work with partners to bring in additional income, to fundraise. So I think our role and focus is very much about giving them the tools and to support their infrastructure, to support their workforce. We underpin probably over 6,000 jobs across our network, which is a significant number. So our core funding helps them to do that. Some of them, I would say, are 95% dependent on the investment that they receive from us, but others may be 25%. Matt alluded to the point we're one of the majority funders of most Premier League clubs, okay. Probably a third in most cases. So there's a dependency on us, but there's a long-term commitment. The Premier League is here to stay, as are our clubs. We are committed to supporting them for the foreseeable future. We're committed to that. We need the clubs to deliver the work that we want to see happening on the ground and the outcomes and the impact we want to see. So, yeah.
And do you also work on this, turning them independent, these club organizations? Do you work on that area, the sustainability, financial sustainability, not to be the 20 or 95% dependent on these funds?
We do. We have a process in place which we have a framework for the way in which a club charity is run, and they have to comply with this framework in order to access our funding. But it helps them to be a sustainable charity, and it includes guidance around good governance, good management, financial management, environmental sustainability is now in there, equality, diversity and inclusion. So we provide the guidance, the advice, the framework and the tools to help them on that journey. And if they are working towards those, we will support them with the finances to achieve that.
What happens when they don't comply?
When they don't comply, We have to provide additional support.
Okay. So you just don't drop off.
Yeah, we wouldn't do that. But in cases, we have to take corrective action, and we have to work with clubs to make sure that they have a plan in place to achieve compliance in a certain time frame. And for us, that's about managing our financial risks as well, and supporting those organisations to achieve the impact that we know that they can achieve. So sometimes we have some difficult conversations, but fortunately, the majority of all of our clubs in the network are all compliant.
And you are the ones who choose the organisations.
So we have a unique ecosystem. If there's a football club that has a charity, we will work with you. We don't fund organisations outside of our network. Our mission is to support the football ecosystem, and we assess the capabilities of all of those organisations, and based on their potential, really, to have positive impact, they are eligible to receive higher levels of investment.
Okay. Perfect. Matt, when we think about responsible organization and its sustainability, we often think, besides a good strategic plan and strong budget, of course, we think about fundraising, partnerships, and donors, mostly. So how has the Liverpool Foundation built this path? And what advices would you give to those who are starting? We have some foundations that are just kicking off. What advices would you give them for someone who's starting this journey?
Good question. So I think firstly, following that, the theme that Alex was just talking about is that I recognise that we're incredibly fortunate in England to have the support that we do from the Premier League and the Premier League Charitable Fund. But if I use Liverpool as an example, and I think there's a danger, isn't there, that you can sit there and think Liverpool's a massive football club, one of the biggest football clubs in the world, it's easy, but having worked, my career journey, I worked at a club in London called Charlton Athletic. Mm-hmm. I think a former player who's very famous in this part of the world played for Charlton Athletic and the Premier League. Costa, is that right? Yeah, so Costa played in but they are now in the English structure, they're a League One club. But the charity there is one, I think Alex, still one of the biggest in the UK. Mm-hmm. So I suppose what I'm saying is it's not about the size of the club. That helps. Okay. And I'll come on to that, but it's not about the size of the club. What we focused on at Charlton was, again, come back to our first point, where could we have the most impact, and where could we work with partners to have impact in our particular area? And what we did at Charlton, as an example, we worked, and I don't know how this translates, apologies, we worked with the council, the local authority, to run the youth services and the sports services for the council. And then they would fund us, and then the fact that we were doing that as partnership, so public charity, that then attracted private funding as well. So as the three public-private charity, third sector organisations coming together, so that was a good example. So I think I wanted to make that point because if you're just starting it off, it can seem as though quite daunting. I would suggest it's about people. So it's not something that you can do, in my opinion, or it's very difficult to do part-time. You need that focus. I think you covered those points about, and Alex did, about the governance, the finance, the strategy. What we then do is, what we try and do is, as we've got bigger, so the Liverpool Foundation, we have 90 full-time staff. But the danger is that you end up, as I said earlier, you try and do too many things. What we try and do is so rather than do 50 things okay, can you do 20 things perfect, excellent, and trying to keep that focus. And that comes back to the impact piece. Where is our money best spent? What we then do is we will use any income that we get, and you hit the nail on the head of the areas. So grants, and so hence that we get from the Premier League. So that's restricted to what you get the money for, and then unrestricted income from fundraising and events. So we will run certain events. So we have our two biggest fundraisers we have an annual Legends game. So the Liverpool Legends play Legends teams from around the world. The football club, give us the stadium. They run the game for us, and all the proceeds are then donated to the foundation. That is our biggest single fundraiser. But what we will do, what we're quite passionate about, is we will designate where that money goes.
Okay.
So we will tell supporters the money we raise from this will support these different projects.
Prior to the event? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Now, we can't talk about the figures because we don't know what it will raise, but we make it clear that this money's not going to... I always make the point, paying my salary is very important, but that's not something that donors want to do. So we make sure that the money we raise goes to the causes that we say it's going to. So I think, coming back to your point, I think we've worked hard. When I first came to the Liverpool Foundation, we were over-reliant on one source of funding, the Premier League money. So we had Premier League and we had the Legends game. We've now trebled our funding by spreading it. So we've made our portfolio wider, if that makes sense. But again, to me, that's been done by being able to tell the story.
Okay.
And we use, so for instance, we use one of the Premier League grants for something called Kicks, which is a youth engagement through sport programme. We've then gone to another funder who's matched that. So I'm making the number up, but instead of supporting 5,000 young people through that funding, that now allows us to support 10,000 young people. And the Premier League are happy with that because we're using their money and doubling it to do more.
Okay, perfect. So focus is here.
Focus is huge. Yes, focus is
A big
key.
word
Yes,
to our conversation.
Yes, yes.
Perfect. José, having in mind that 50% of the world's disabled population has never even had the opportunity to attend a sporting event or public event, and being one of the world's largest minority group, do you feel that due to the lack of awareness, all of those who work for the inclusion of the disabled population and on the sports world, and we have here talked a lot of other examples, do you need to be more creative regarding fundraising strategies and partnerships? Do you feel that you have the same access to funding as other areas such as education, health, and well-being?
Thank you, Inês, for the question. It's a great one, definitely. And as you were mentioning, like disability, it's probably the biggest social group worldwide. According to the World Health Organization, it's 16% of the global population. But we even believe it's more than that, and it's a growing and growing number. And as you see, it's not definitely equally represented within the football and the sports world and the society, let's say it more broadly in general. And here, of course, creativity is important, and we need to be creative. Even we always work to find new ideas, new projects. For example, this year, I saw that Real Betis is here also in this. Will be speaking also here today, and this year we organized with them what we call the most inclusive, together with them and the World Football Summit, what we call the most inclusive football match, where we beat the global record of disabled fans attending live to a football match and a La Liga match between Betis and Valladolid. And more than beating records was really to raise awareness, and that other fans can really know that disabled fans exist and they should be part of the game as any other person is. And here, of course, creativity is always important, and even if someone has new ideas, we are always open to new ideas, so we always welcome them. But however, more important even than being creative, we believe that in this field, and what is our big battle and for what we strive the most is really to change the perception, to change the perception that the sports world has regarding disability, the sports and the society in general, but talking here about the sports world, that the sports world doesn't see disability exclusively as charity, but that it sees it as opportunity, because when we talk about disability, we are talking about 16% of the global population, and we are always talking about football growing, finding new markets, finding new opportunities of innovation, new opportunities. The clubs are also looking for fan engagement, new strategies, also new ideas in terms of increasing revenues, and how can football continue to grow if it can forget 16% of the world population? Like football cannot be for 84% of the world population, but for 100% of the world population. And when, for example, we talk about the situation of, as we were talking earlier this morning, about a club that doesn't have an accessible website. And here, if it doesn't have an accessible website, the disabled fan loses, of course, because he will not be able to buy the shirt or of his favorite player or the merchandising item that he was dreaming forever, or even the tickets for the match of his favorite team. But my question for you, okay, the disabled fan loses, but the club or the FA or the league or the whatever it is, the stakeholder doesn't lose also. So this topic of disability inclusion in football, it can be, of course, always charity, but needs to be essentially seen as opportunity. It needs to be seen as a win-win. Because if we change this perspective, like we'll definitely see that football will be for all. Football will be for everyone. And here I think this is like the main point when we talk about support in this area of disability inclusion, is that the sports world in general sees it as an opportunity. Because when we talk about disability, we are talking about a market that was considered recently, according to some data, bigger than the Chinese market. And I always used to say that if I talk about a football club about China, like everyone asks me, when is the plane tomorrow for Beijing or for Shanghai or for Guangzhou or whatever. And if I talk about disability, it's a bigger market even that is to explore, and that is a market that is not only in terms of revenues, but in terms of fan engagement, in terms of innovation, and in terms of inclusion also, of course, because football is for everyone, and it's not for 84, 85, 83%, but everyone should have the opportunity. And this, as a person who is a big fan of football, I cannot imagine what is not to be able to be in the stadium, and this unfortunately still happens in some cases, celebrating the goals with my family, with my friends, or even buying the shirt of the new signing of my club, or even just following a match in TV. Everything we need to think that should be for everyone, and this is our battle and what we strive. And of course, for that, we also need a lot of creativity, and we count with all of you for this strive of turning football for 100% of the global population.
Quite great. And before closing up, I would still ask you, Matt, we talked about focus and not doing a lot instead of doing less, but more impactful and perfect. How do... I get the feeling that most of the times the fans, they look at the club's foundation and they see they can ask for everything. So how do you think that fans and community react when you're just focusing and not saying no to some other questions they might have or some other askings?
Yeah, I think it is a good question, and that is a challenge. I think it comes back to something you said in the last question, that if you're clear about your strategy and how you communicate that strategy, and then if you're clear about the impact that you're having in the areas you work, and that's why, again, back to the first question, it's so important that you can demonstrate that impact and you can tell that story, then that in a way is your answer. I think there's a colleague of mine that uses the phrase that people have to understand that no is an answer. It might not be the answer that people want to hear, but it is an answer, because I think if we try, as a football club's foundation, all of our clubs, whatever country, certainly in the UK, are born out of the communities where we're based, and effectively the foundation serve those communities. So our priority is those communities. From a Liverpool perspective, our community is global because of the size of the club. So for that reason, the asks we get are multiple. But again, what we do is we stick to making sure that we stay within our strategy, and that is about supporting young people and families. And it's about, we've got 6 strands of work, or impact areas as we call them, and we make sure all of our work stays within that impact area. What we will do is we will also look to fund, generally locally, but we will fund other charities that do work in that area, but who are more specialists.
Okay.
So as an example, we support some charities in Liverpool that work with young people who are suffering from cancer. So we can use our platform to raise money, but then support those charities because they are experts in that area. We're not experts in that area. So I think that's the thing about the point was brilliantly made about partnership. You can't do it all alone. So you have different partners who will work, even to your point, being very humble about the impact that the organisation has, but we have a young person on our young person's advisory board who came through yourselves. So she's from Liverpool, but didn't know about us, was connected by you, and is now part of our young person's advisory board. So that's why partnerships are so key, and recognising that you can't do it all. you might be better placed to work with a partner who's an expert in that area.
Okay. I don't know if we'll have time, but I would raise the question out to all of you. We know that we are moving towards a more inclusive and diverse society, at least we hope for. And of course, the sports world has an active and fundamental role in raising awareness in society, as José said also. What role will foundations and social responsible organizations play in the future? You can start, Alex.
Equality, diversity and inclusion is a huge focus for us. We are prioritising those underrepresented communities that are football fans, be it a disabled community, women and girls, people from ethnically diverse communities. So we have a real focus on making sure that our fan base is diversified and that we're putting in place measures and methods to support people to access the sport, be it coming to matches, be it watching from a broadcast perspective, purchasing. We need to cut through the market and increase that representation because for those who are in the commercial space and for marketing, that the fan base is incredibly important. From a community perspective, these are our communities. They are people that live and represent those communities. And our challenge to the clubs is to make sure that the workforce is representative of the communities that you're trying to serve. So making sure there are more disabled people, more women and girls, more people from ethnically diverse communities employed, because that's going to improve the engagement on the ground. So we're still trying to overcome some of those barriers. If people can't see people that look like them, they're going to be less likely to engage in those activities. So a real priority is to deliver that. For the Premier League Charitable Fund, on Monday, we're launching a new Premier League Fans Fund for our clubs to apply for funding to engage their fan base and to support that diversification of our fans as well. So we're really excited about that new programme and hopefully seeing some results with a more representative fan and community base.
José?
I think definitely when we think around organizations from this third sector, around the football world, like we need to see them as, I think the future will be that they are more and more real stakeholders of this world, and they are active players in the continuous growth of the game. In particular, here I was even thinking like this year, like the Portuguese Football League decided to. Today I was thinking this morning that this year the Portuguese Football League decided to organize this international conference around sports foundations, and it's really important because today, like in this Thinking Football Summit, we are discussing the future and how the football, the game in general, can be better and attract more people. And it's great that we have panels like this because it shows really that the football cannot grow without forgetting this part of the game. Because in the end, football all starts in community. Almost, I would say 99.9% of the people start playing football, or their first contact with the football is in their homes or in their gardens with their family, with their closest friends, neighbors, or even in the local. Normally, their first club is always a local grassroots club. And if you want to continue attracting the people from very early ages and growing the game itself, you cannot forget community, because in the end it's all about community. And regarding our organization, also in specific integrated dreams, so we have now, just briefly explaining, we'll have this year's the Football for All Leadership Program. This year we'll host it in the US together with US Soccer. We'll have a different name even because football in America, it's not exactly the football we are here discussing today. It's a different sport. And also we will have then in April the Innovating for Inclusion Bootcamp in Amsterdam, where we'll join experts in different fields around inclusion and in sport in general, together with reference sport and tech organizations who want to benefit from the expertise of these experts in order to solve concrete issues they have around disability sport, around accessibility, and other topics related with the inclusion of disabled people. And we'll have more news also coming out soon, and more and more projects coming out. And looking forward to have the support of everyone, because as I mentioned in the beginning, we cannot do anything, and as Matt was also mentioning it, Alex, alone we don't do anything. Yeah.
Okay, Matt.
Yeah, I think I suppose, put simply, that idea of inclusion. I think it was danger of going off topic, but I think there's a Nelson Mandela quote that talks about sport as the power to unite in a way, and I think keeping that in mind and keeping it that. So one project that springs to mind that we do is a work with refugees and asylum seekers in Liverpool. But it's about sport is the first contact point. So coming to regular sport, free football, is a regular contact point. So a community or a group of the community that are perhaps isolated, bringing them out of that isolation to work with others. But if you only have a session for that community and then they go back and it's just them, it doesn't work. So they're then trying to engage and mix with play sport with local people. But then it's about, that's the start of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
What we then look to do is introduce them to employability support or housing support so it goes from there. So that idea of using sport and using football as the catalyst for inclusion. And I think that sport for all concept, and you know, we're all fans, we're all supporters, we love watching the Premier League players and the international players, but most of us unfortunately are not going to play at that level, but we all love the game. So how do we make sure that everyone has the opportunity, as has been said, to access and be part of the sport that we love?
Yeah, that definitely will be the next step.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
We are done. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.